610 Hz monitor specifically for CS2 just dropped, and I'm wondering if it is as good as it sounds and looks. Why specifically for CS2, and why pushing for another TN panel when OLED is all the hype now? Let's find out some answers. I got my hands on this monitor by AOC and been using it for a few weeks. The main selling point of this monitor are the things we will focus on the most. Pushing over 600 Hz and obviously the eye-catching design tailored around Counter-Strike. We will talk about all the features, important specifications, and most importantly how it feels to play the game on this. I'll be also doing multiple tests to see if the refresh rate really matters at this point and if this is not just too much for a human eye to spot the difference. So, can this beat an 480 Hz OLED display? To tackle this question, let's take it step by step. Starting from the design, this is very subjective, but obviously huge factor. I don't think I've ever seen a monitor skin, and as a CS2 player, I subjectively like it. Bezels on the sides are super thin, which I personally prefer over those thick borders like Zowie is known for, but that means placing a webcam on top of the frame will obstruct a vision. There is a single joystick-like button on the back of the monitor to control everything, which is also a welcome change in my opinion, instead of having multiple buttons. And those buttons will lead us to the settings where all important features are tweaked to your liking. You got all the usual stuff available, but they might be hidden under different names that you are used to. For example, DIAC or dynamic accuracy is a huge buzzword. Here you will find it as MPR, which stands for motion blur reduction. Instead of just turning it off and on, you can change it in increments from 0 when it's off to max it out all the way to 20. A lot of this is self-explanatory, so I'll just show you what options you can find here. But for the best experience, it is set to just keep the game settings specifically for Counter-Strike, and you should be good to go. Now, tweaking colors is not what I usually do, but we have to talk about them. It's important and they differ from brand to brand and from product to product within those brands. Again, this is subjective, but I feel like Zowie colors are just superior, but only in a game like Counter-Strike. Might be biased since I use Zowie for 90% of my career and I just got used to it, but it's how I see it. However, as soon as I watch YouTube or play any other game, I like colors on the AOC more. Preference, but this is my review, so I had to share. So I've been using this for a month now, and how does the game feel? Honestly, it's very solid. The motion blur is the biggest factor, and even in hectic moments or in deathmatch, I simply see things like models and crosshair very easily. Thanks to this image clarity, things just pop out. I saw some complaints that this lack of motion blur causes headache for some people, but I didn't notice anything, and I feel like a month is long enough time that this symptom should have appeared. If you are a regular on my channel, you probably know I made a video recently saying that OLEDs are pretty much the future of displays, especially in gaming. So how does this compare? I mean, it should be a step back, right? So in certain aspects, it certainly is. For example, the response time. This is built for hyper-competitive gamers where milliseconds count, and for comparison, this monitor has 0.3 millisecond response time, but the OLED I have been testing earlier had just 0.03 millisecond response time. Mathematically, that is 10 times slower, but we're at a scale where this becomes impossible to notice by naked eye. And bear in mind that OLED was just 480 Hz, but that difference of 120 Hz between monitor is noticeable even by naked eye. And to prove it to you, I prepared this very simple test. I'm sure some of you are about to comment that there is no way you can spot the difference between refresh rate at this point, but yeah, that is simply not true. To prove it to you, I will have my girlfriend change the refresh rate at random between 120 to 140, 480 and 600 Hz, and after a few seconds I'll be able to notice what hertz I play at. Okay, I immediately see ghosting of the mouse, of the cursor. I'm not sure if you can see it on the video, but let's actually jump in game a little bit. Okay, so I definitely see the tearing, like it's not smooth at all. This is definitely not 600, not 480. I think this might be like 240. I think this might be 240. Obviously, I don't have any reason to lie here, because like at the top corner there's my average FPS, but that is not locked to the hertz, so I'm gonna go, this is like 240 hertz. It's pretty noticeable. So this is a little bit smoother. I still see the ghosting of the mouse, like I see when I move like this, there's a lot of like shadow behind it. Yes, in game as well it feels better, but I still think it's choppy. Yeah, I think this is definitely 480 hertz. it's not as smooth as 600. Whenever I swing like this, I can immediately spot this. So I think this is 480. All right, perfect. We continue. This is making me throw up. Like, I immediately see even in the desktop that the tearing on the mouse cursor, I don't know if the tearing is the right word, but the like shadows of the mouse cursor is like, you know, it's skipping so many frames. I go back into the CS. This is absolutely terrible. To me, this is unplayable. I understand that a lot of you guys, you have 60 Hz or 144 Hz, but once you go up so much, you go down, it makes you literally vomit. So this is 144 Hz for sure. I don't want to go any lower than this, and to me this already is like, I'm playing fine, like I can play fine, but it's not enjoyable at all. Like, to me this is laggy as hell, and yeah, once you get used to higher refresh rates, that's kind of what happens. So this is 100% 144 Hz. You can immediately see that this is just what I've been getting used to. There's a lot of like cursors behind my actual mouse, and in game, like, this is exactly what I've been playing on. I'm not saying that the difference is huge between, let's say, 480 and 600, but it is noticeable. It is noticeable to me. This is like, again, a level up on the smoothness, on the clarity, on everything, how even I run around and my crosshair kind of is more visible. The motion blur and everything around that is kind of like hard to compare, but when you compare, let's say, 60 Hz and 144, it's absolute night and day. This one is a little bit of a, you know, less difference, but still noticeable. So this fact, or a myth, that you cannot spot the difference between such a higher refresh rates, I think the myth is busted. Like, it's so easy for me to spot, and I would be having really tough time to play at this point, even on like 360 Hz monitors, which I know it's still a pretty good number. But yeah, it's for me, this is now a drug that I cannot get hooked off. So this 600 Hz for me is the perfect. Another test is tied to that motion blur and image clarity, specifically in CS2. At each refresh rate, I will attempt to control my AK-47 recoil and average the result of 5 tries. Even us pro players, we are not flawless when it comes to spray, but higher refresh rate and motion blur reduction should help you with that. Let's test if that's true. So, as I was doing this test, it became pretty clear from the start that this does not impact my spray at all. I mean, I'm at a level where all of this is unconscious, and I would probably get decent results with monitor turned off. And this could aid newer players, but even as the results suggest, there is no correlation for me with better spraying on static target with increased refresh rate. At the end, I felt like when I had a bad spray, it was probably due to me losing a bit of a focus, but yeah, across the board, I did not see any noticeable difference. Last test is focused for aim trainers. I will play a click time scenario, which is probably most important aiming technique in CS2, and see if smoothness of the target played a role in how I perceive, aim, and follow the target. This test went a bit better. I understand that the sample size is small, but the feeling of me doing this task on lower refresh rate was actually pretty bad. I had issues tracking the targets, following them, and the whole thing felt clunky. And at first I thought I'm just not warmed up, but then I increased my hertz steadily, and damn, difference was actually impressive. I felt like I was faster, more precise, I tracked targets better, even those across the whole screen. For this task, high refresh rate actually impacted my experience more than I thought it would have. So at the end of a video like this, I present who should buy this and if it's worth the money. I found this at my local retailer for almost 700 euro, but this might differ from the country where you're from. But let's look at the target audience here. They're clearly just CS2 players they want to attract with this. This is niche down to only those serious gamers willing to upgrade at any cost. And that gets niche down to only those not having OLED yet or monitor in similar specs range. And then it's niche down only to those who can actually squeeze 600 FPS in CS2. I mean, the product is great and I plan on using it moving forward, but it feels like a rare collector's item rather than a flagship piece of tech to double down on. That is my bias though. Counter-Strike is a huge part of my life and I'll like anything that is tied to it. Shout out to you, all of my Patreons and Coffee members, for your continual support. It allows me to create more content like this. Your name is on the screen right now as a little token of appreciation. I used Ko-fi for years, where you can find extra content and perks at various tiers of membership, but due to popular demand, I set up Patreon too. Nothing changes, both platforms are treated equally, with same content, just for your convenience to use whichever side you prefer. Thank you for making my videos better and possible.